I think that that's where we are missing out on. It's learning people's stories, and everyone has a journey. Everyone has lived experiences. And that has been the most fun part about being mayor, connecting all over the city. I won't be able to meet all 400,000 people, but I hope that I've made an impact on some that then they can share the impact that hopefully I've had on them to those others. And then maybe that I will be able to reach 400,000.
Welcome to the Going Big podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Gentry, and this is the place where we celebrate bold moves and big ideas. Each week, I sit down with inspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers who are making a significant impact in their careers and in their communities. Whether you're looking to level up your leadership, pursue your passion, or just get inspired to take your next big leap, this is where those stories come to life. Now, if you're listening on iTunes, YouTube, or anywhere else you tune into podcasts, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, let's dive in to what it means to truly go big. Welcome back to another episode of the Going Big podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Gentry, and I'm so pleased to have as my guest today, Lily Wu, the mayor of Wichita, Kansas. And as you're about to see, she has an inspiring going big story, and it's something I think that we can all take a lot of lessons and insights from. Mayor Wu, it's great to have you on the Going Big podcast today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope that this will be inspirational for all of us as we each find our own strengths and empower each other to do the very best in our communities.
Well, I have no doubt that what you're about to share is going to be of a tremendous benefit to listeners all over the world and of all ages and at all stages in life. Well, let's kick it off with the sort of here and now. Without any prior election political experience and without the backing of either major political party, you decided to challenge the incumbent mayor of Wichita in 2023, and you won with 58% of the vote. Tell us, sort of in the going big way, what made you decide to run for mayor in 2023?
Well, it really comes down to my deep love for this city. This has been my home since I was a little girl, and I felt a great responsibility that I needed to step up and give back to this community in a different way. It really goes back to my family's story and why I decided to give back at this very time in my life. When I ran, the very moment that I announced that I was running, it was actually the 30th anniversary of my family coming to America. And so it truly was because I'm so grateful to this city. And I knew that there needed to be a new direction. And that direction was one where individuals like myself or political outsiders can step up and say, I can make a difference in my community. This is a community that has invested in me, and now I want to give back. So it truly is about love and responsibility.
Awesome. Well, you've got a great American dream story, and I want to dig into that in just a moment. But before then, why do you think you won and won so convincingly? I know it was kind of coming out of COVID. There were a lot of frustrations, but why do you think you won?
I think it really comes down to being a political outsider. And our form of government, the local electeds are nonpartisan. So there's no political affiliation next to the individual's name. So it really requires community to get to know who is running and why they would want to go out and vote for them in the primary, in the November general election. And so for me, it was really reminding this community that I may not be a political insider. I have no political background, but I've been a Wichitan for more than 30 years, and that makes me an expert in my own community. And that should empower people in any community to say, maybe I should step up and run for political office, for school board seats, for local city council seats. These are your neighbors. And so for me, it was reminding folks that I've been a neighbor of this community. My parents still live here in Wichita, and I just wanted to make a difference. And being someone that really focuses on core services of local government, it really becomes non-political, really. Public safety, I believe everyone wants. And I believe everyone wants to make sure that their roads are free of potholes, that they're paved well, that when you turn on the water, there's actually going to be clean drinking water for you. So these are the core essential services of local government. And that's what I kept talking about during the campaign trail. And that's what a political outsider that is trying to be reminding folks that it's really about those kitchen table conversations, and those are the things that matter. And common sense needs to be back in those city council seats as well as in those school boards.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Wichita. Wichita, of course, is the biggest city in Kansas. It's the air capital of the world. It's a regional hub in many respects. You've got over 400,000 constituents. What has it been like to serve as the mayor? And of course, I want to dig into your personal story too, but a mayor of a city that, again, you spent 30 years in, you grew up in.
So over the last 2 years that I've had the opportunity to lead this city, I have been showing up, listening, and really powering through. Um, it's really rare for mayors to go all around the city and try to engage in every type of community and neighborhood association and organization. But that has been my mission. It literally has been my mission to connect with individuals on a one-on-one basis, whether I attend a large 1,000 group event to a one-on-one conversation. I have had the opportunity to, just in the last year, in 2025, have 1,100 public engagements.
Oh, good God.
And to me, it's about truly being the mayor that I would have wanted to see in my own life growing up, someone that is present, someone that shows up, but also listens. Because I know that a lot of young people have great ideas in our community, but they don't know how the system works. And so I've tried to demystify local government to people, reminding them that in our form of government, what's called a council manager form of government, this mayor is really the ambassador and lead connector for the city. And since I only have one vote and I'm equal in power to my council members, I really try to encourage people to get to know their specific council member that represents the district that they live in. And so for me, it's continuing to show up, continuing to listen, and continuing to have that endurance, because it's a 4-year term and 2 years are down, and I still want to continue connecting with my community and getting to know them and knowing that City Hall is their hall.
Well, it's a lot of that you just shared I want to tap more deeply into, because I think that is quite an inspiration to a lot of people who might think about running for office, serving even in a non-electoral capacity. But let's go a little bit deeper into your family story. You've been in Wichita for 30 years. Your family immigrated to the United States. But it's a fascinating story. Tell us a little bit about how your journey of coming to Wichita.
Well, I would say that our journey is really a journey of gratitude. My family is originally from mainland China. My parents don't even have a full high school education, but they knew that education was the key to success. And so while my brother and I were not born yet, they knew that they wanted to come to America someday. And so my parents, instead of being able to come to America, they went to Central America. They went to Guatemala. That's where I was born and raised with my brother, Carlos. And during that time, my parents were trying to come to America legally, and it took nearly 10 years. Thankfully, my grandpa was our sponsor. And eventually, on April 2nd of 1993, my family immigrated from Guatemala to Wichita, Kansas, and this has been our home. And ever since we came here, my parents have reminded us the reason why we came here is for those opportunities. And one of those opportunities is an educational opportunity. So I have never taken that lightly. I'm a proud product of Wichita Public Schools. I also attended Wichita State University and eventually got my master's degree from the University of Hong Kong. And so for me, our journey has been one of gratitude, of being very proud to be Americans. My family naturalized as American citizens, and we got to naturalize as well. So I always say that I'm so grateful that I get to live in America, and I'm so lucky to live in Wichita and now have the opportunity to lead our community as the mayor. And I do believe that our community is one that embraces you. If you have a dream and a goal and you're willing to work hard, anything truly is possible. And so I'm grateful that my parents still live in Wichita and they get to see my journey from a journalist, which was my childhood dream, to now becoming the mayor of the city of Wichita, where they live. And so I'm cognizant that I'm making decisions that affect them as well.
All right. Okay. So there's a lot more now to unpack. All right. So first of all, your grandfather immigrated to Wichita first. How did that happen? And he became the basis for your parents coming?
Yes. So I'm very grateful that Grandpa came to America, and then he was the sponsor for our family. The legal immigration process requires someone to really vouch for you and say, this is an individual or a family that if anything happens, I will financially back them. And so for us, our grandpa was that person. And it was my grandpa who opened up his home to us. I remember the very first year that we came to America, we lived intergenerationally within a house with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. And so you can only imagine the sharing, the living in close quarters and learning from one another. I think that that's what has helped shape who I am. I've always had a deep respect for our elders, the wisdom that they have, and having had the opportunity to live with Grandpa and learning about how my parents were saving in order for them to finally buy a house for themselves was really lessons that have carried on for me, even as an adult. And being a very fiscal conservative individual really comes from my upbringing. My parents didn't even get a credit card until I was a teenager in high school, and I had to help them buy their first credit card. They weren't just sending you credit cards in the mail because my parents didn't have credit. And so for me, it's always been about how I grew up. And I grew up very, fiscally conservative, very mindful that every dollar that is earned must also be saved and only buy what you truly need. And that wants are things that once all the needs are fully met, then you can start thinking about the wants. And so these are things that my parents taught me and my grandparents taught me as well. And so I'm very grateful for Grandpa for allowing us the opportunity to come to America and now have this really wonderful opportunity to lead in my community, but also be with my family too.
Well, you must grab a lot of attention when you're serving as mayor, when you were running, and just in your life, when people say, "Where are you from?" What do you say?
It's actually my favorite question. I love when people ask, where are you from? Because it depends. If I'm in California and they ask me, where are you from? And I say, Wichita, Kansas, they're like, oh, okay. Oh, were you born there? And I say, no, I was not born there. And then they make an assumption that I was born probably somewhere in Asia because I'm ethnically Chinese. I tell them I was born in Guatemala and it shocks them. And I love that that's a way to learn. I don't find offense in that question. I find it inquisitive and one where we can have more of that dialogue. And I think that that's where we are missing out on. It's learning people's stories. And everyone has a journey. Everyone has lived experiences. And that has been the most fun part about being mayor, connecting all over the city. I won't be able to meet all 400,000 people, but I hope that I've made an impact on some that then they can share the impact that hopefully I've had on them to those others. And then maybe that I will be able to reach 400,000.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so if you grew up as a child in Guatemala, I'm just guessing English was not your first language. What? Tell us a little bit about when you came to Wichita, and just a little bit more about growing up in Wichita.
Well, English was definitely not my first language, and it was definitely not my second language. So Guatemala, I formally learned Spanish and came to the U.S. when I was 8 years old. And so it was difficult for me to learn English initially, but I still remember my very first day of school. I couldn't go to my neighborhood school because they didn't have English as a second language program there. So I had to get bused to this school. And I remember I came home crying to my mom and I begged her to take us back home because I didn't understand my peers and I didn't understand my teacher. But it was in that moment that my mom reminded us, this is our new home, that I had to grow up and I had to grow up fast. And I always say to young people, a leader is just someone that does the right thing and mobilizes others to do the right thing. And for me, I took a leadership role within my own family. I knew that I would have to learn the language so that I could help my parents navigate this new country. And so from that moment on, after that cry, I took it upon myself to really learn the language. So I learned the language by obviously going through school and going through my formal studies, but I also learned English by watching television. I loved watching TV with grandpa. He enjoyed watching the local news at 6 o'clock, followed by Wheel of Fortune. And so I learned English from local TV journalists and also local personalities or national personalities at that. And so that inspired my career. I always wanted to become a local TV journalist ever since the age of 8. And I got to live out my dream as an adult. After formally getting my master's in journalism, I came back to Wichita and I started my career at the ABC affiliate and then the CBS affiliate here in Wichita. So I got to rise up through the ranks as well. I was a reporter, a multimedia journalist, and eventually I had an anchor position at the CBS affiliate. And I was so grateful that I got to live out my childhood dream. And really, I never dreamt of being a mayor. That was not something as little 8-year-old Lily, if you would have asked her that question, she would have laughed because my dream was to become a local journalist. And even to this day, I carry the skills from my journalism background to the job of mayor in the city of Wichita.
Wow. Well, that's such a great story that you learned from Pat Sajak and Vanna White.
Vanna White.
Aspects of English. Our mutual friend Alan Spolensky, who has his own extraordinary going big story about how his father immigrated here from Argentina and did not understand English, and he listened to Vin Scully calling the Los Angeles Dodgers games, and that's how he learned English. And then, of course, Alan is now an owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is just amazing. Love these stories. Okay, so for those listening, I mean, Lily, your story just about, frankly, becoming a TV news journalist and anchor is going big enough for me. And I think to young people listening, what were some of the things that helped you growing up, perhaps in high school and what have you, and ultimately at public schools, but also at Wichita State? But were there some influences that helped you prepare your path?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us about some of those, because I think people are always looking for what can I turn to help me identify my gift? How can I make my greatest contribution?
Number one is getting involved and getting engaged. For me, I started getting engaged as a teenager in our community. I was part of the International Baccalaureate program at East High School. And at the IB program, they really emphasized the need to become a world citizen. And to become a world citizen, you have to also know your own backyard. And it encourages you to have community service as part of your life motto. And so I got connected to Rotary through being in the IB program. There's a young program through Rotary called Interact. And to this day, I now am a Rotarian, and I believe that those values are what helped me. The Rotary four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Those are all things that are important, but I learned as a young person. Another organization that really helped me was being part of Youth Entrepreneurs of Kansas. And that's where I learned that I also had a passion for business and for numbers. And being in the YEK program, I learned that I could be an owner. While I may not own a business, I could think entrepreneurially. I could think like an owner and work hard like an owner. And to this day, I carry that same work ethic thanks to YEK. And I was involved not just with those organizations, but DECA and also the school newspaper. And throughout those organizations, I also learned more about my own community. And so I volunteered my time at the local hospital where I learned that healthcare was not what I was going to pursue, but I learned that. And that's important for young people. Get to know what you want to do or don't want to do. I also got the opportunity to volunteer at our local science museum called Exploration Place. And now I get to serve as a board member, as mayor. And so I've seen the evolution of all these great things that are happening in our community. And so my biggest advice for especially a young person is get involved and get engaged. There are so many opportunities in your own backyard. And in Wichita, I can tell you that all you have to do is pick up the phone and someone will answer and will try to connect you, especially a young person that has that willingness and that drive and wants to do big things in our community. So I always encourage young people, get involved and get engaged.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you shared that. I think those are some so important and often get overlooked as we move along in these going big stories. So thank you. Well, you mentioned Wichita, and I think Wichita is a very special place. I've been there obviously a number of times over the years. It doesn't have beautiful mountain landscapes in the background, and it's not accessible to beaches, and it's cold in the winter and windy and hot in the summer. But there's something very special about the people. I've always loved the people there. What can you tell me about Wichita?
Well, if you didn't know about the air capital of the world, I hope that anyone who's watching or listening will Google it and say, oh my gosh, I maybe need to come and visit Wichita. As the air capital of the world, we have had a long history with aviation and continue to be at the forefront thanks to Wichita State University and the National Center for Aviation Training. I am so grateful to the folks that make Wichita who she is. And for me, AIR actually stands for something. It stands for aviation, innovation, and research. And in our community, we have a long history of entrepreneurs. Pizza Hut was founded in Wichita,
Right.
but these are people that founded these companies. And so it goes back to, while we may not have mountains or oceans, what we do have are really quality individuals. And the people here are truly the kindest, most helpful individuals. And just like I said, all you have to do is pick up the phone and someone will be able to connect you with that opportunity or that mentor that you may need. So what I love about Wichita is that she has a lot of character, she has a lot of grit, but she also has a lot of humility. So while you may not know much about Wichita and you're going to Google more about Wichita, I invite people to come to our city because once you know and felt the warmth of our community, people are surprised and they want to come back.
All right. Well, now I'm going to put you on the spot. You're the mayor. This is going to be tough for you because you represent the whole city. But what are some of your favorite aspects, favorite spots in Wichita? I discovered the Doodah Diner years ago, and I have to say that gave me a breakfast that served me all day long. But there are a lot of great things. What are some of your favorites?
Well, if you came to Wichita, any listener, I would say you have to stop by Wichita State University, check out the first Pizza Hut. The building is still on the campus of WSU. You have to take a stroll around our Arkansas River. There's a big statue called the Keeper of
Not
the
Arkansas
Plains.
River, Arkansas River. You pronounce it
Yes,
right.
So here in Wichita, we say things a little bit different, but they all mean well. And here in our community, we have something called the Keeper of the Plains, and that is paying homage to our Native American culture. The Wichita tribe is what we are named after. And so I would take someone to the Keeper of the Plains. I would then take them over to Exploration Place. That is our big science museum, but it's also a hands-on and museum that also now has a playscape. So I would take you there. And then finally, I would take you all around the food scenes in our community. We have such a diverse community. We have a lot of immigrants from Vietnam. So the Vietnamese food, also known as pho, is really delicious here. I would take you over to our north end where our Hispanic community is thriving and you could get a taco there. And I would love to just share the beautiful diversity of our community. And I think that that's what makes Wichita so special. It's that there's so many different things to see and do, but it's really the people that you connect with as you do these experiences. And so I'm just so grateful that if anyone wants to come to Wichita, that they should just contact me on social media because I'll give you a whole itinerary.
That's great. There's that great movie. It's a sort of a Thanksgiving classic, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And John Candy and Steve Martin, as the actors, famously get stranded in Wichita by a snowstorm on their way to Chicago. And their cab driver takes them to the Braidwood Inn, this fictitious place, and drives through Wichita in the middle of the night. And Steve Martin complains because it's the middle of the night. Why aren't we going on the highway? And John Candy says, "This Doobie, the driver, he's proud of his town." It's a special place indeed. All right. Well, switching gears in a different direction, but still about Wichita. Last year, of course, very tragically, on January 29th, 2025, American Airlines Flight 5342 going from Wichita to Washington Reagan Airport tragically was hit with that Black Hawk helicopter, the U.S. Army helicopter, just over the Potomac River. All 67 people were tragically killed. Of course, that was, I'm sure, just a shocking moment. If you would just let us know walk us through what happened when you found out that news and what you thought you needed to do as the mayor at a time when, Wichita, 400,000 people, but still it's a small place and people know each other. And that's an important time.
I describe it as a roller coaster of emotions because that happened to be Kansas Day. And I remember that morning we were celebrating not just our state, but also it happened to be Chinese New Year. And so we were in a celebratory mood. And as a matter of fact, that evening, I went to a Wichita State Shocker game. And as I was walking out of that game, that's when my phone started going off. And I was wondering what's happening. I got to talk to the airport's director who told me there was a flight that left Wichita that may be involved in something really tragic. And I said, "Don't worry, I'm headed your direction right away." So I went to my vehicle, and I still remember on my way to the airport, I had to pull off to the side of the road because I knew that there was an impact on people's lives. And I just prayed. I prayed. I knew that somehow we would know at least one or several people on that flight. And I just prayed for comfort for the families who are looking for answers. And that's how I went to the airport, knowing that we didn't have a lot of confirmed information. I am not going to alarm families by providing them false either hope or false information. And so I was very cognizant that I needed to provide a sense of comfort for people, knowing that someone is here to speak on the behalf of the airport and the city of Wichita, but that only confirmed information is what I would provide. And so I remember going to the airport. We had some pastors that showed up. We huddled up together. We prayed. Several council members also came to the airport. I think that reminds me of why it's so important to have confirmed information, because we had a family that arrived at the airport and they were looking for answers, and they were answers we couldn't provide because we were not in DC. And so I'm not going to share a reaction to information that is not verified because it's out of respect for families. And I kept that the next 24 hours when we had our big news conference. I also talked about I'm not going to react until we have confirmed information. But we knew that there was definitely a loss of life in a tragic event like that. But what we could provide for the families is not hysteria, but rather calmness and confirmed information. And I believe that my background as a journalist helped in that situation because that's what families are asking for, confirmed information.
Hmm. Well, you mentioned your faith, and I know that's very important to you as well. How did you did your personal religious faith get you through that time? And frankly, how has it gotten through you at times as mayor? I mean, I'm sure there are other very stressful times. You're so engaged. You're trying to do so much, and not everybody agrees with what you want to do. How does that influence you?
I really rely on prayer a lot, and I relied on it immediately after learning of what had happened. But I also know that there's power in prayer in groups. And immediately after learning that, yes, there were families here in our community that were impacted, we wanted to do a community prayer. And that was the first time we've held a community wide prayer inside City Hall. And so within 12 hours, really, we were able to get pastors. We were able to get various faith groups to come to City Hall. And we had a community prayer that next day in the afternoon. We wanted to make sure that families knew that there was a community ready to rally behind them, and that that community is still here to this day. During the 1 year commemoration that was held in January, we also held another community prayer, and we invited individuals of various faiths to come together. So for me, prayer is not just in wake of tragedy, but prayer can be daily, and I definitely need prayers daily. I pray myself because I know that in this position, when I vote yes, the no's will be mad at me. If I vote no, the yeses will be mad at me. So I try to remind myself that I am trying my very best given the information that I have at that moment, and that I need grace as well. And that comes from asking God to really take over and be my guiding light in all of the decisions I get to make alongside the council. And so I ask for prayers daily. And I also am a prayerful woman, and use my Sundays to replenish my soul with goodness. I go to a local non-denominational Christian church, and I'm so grateful that I belong to a group that just loves God. And we know that goodness comes from God. And I look for the good every day because there is goodness if you look for it. And so to me, my faith has played a major role in how I make decisions. And I try again to do my very best, and I work very hard, knowing that I need to glorify Him in everything I do.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Not everybody is always so willing, so thank you. You know, the approach that you take to leading and to running seems very common sense, but I know you have a well-grounded political philosophy. You're deeply committed to a certain set of principles. If you would tell us a little bit about your philosophy and how that was formed and how that guides you as well.
So for me, it's really a lot about self-responsibility. I know that each individual gets to make decisions every day, and I hope that people make choices that are positive. Whatever those choices are, there are consequences. And again, consequences can be positive or negative. That's why I always share with young people that every day you get to choose two things. Number one, you get to choose your attitude and your effort. And number two, you get to choose whether you're a victim of your circumstances or a victor in your own story. And you get to have that pen and write your own story. And I hope that people choose to be victors. And so when it comes to my political philosophy, I'm not affiliated to either of the major parties. However, I do have certain leanings because, again, I shared my personal background of my family being savers and really focusing on needs. And so that has guided me to become someone that is fiscally very responsible. And those decisions, again, now as mayor, ripple to 400,000 people. So I'm very cognizant that I have to stay focused on what's the core services of local government. And for me, it's those the core services, public safety, public works. And when I talk about public safety, police and fire, but it also is community. Public safety can only be had if community also is part of that solution. And when it comes to public works, it's just making sure that the streets are well paved, but also potholes are filled. And when you turn on the faucet, that clean drinking water comes out of there. And so for me, it's really just refocusing efforts on what are the core services of local government. And so my political philosophy has always been about every choice or every decision made is truly a trade-off to something else. And so I'm cognizant that there are only so many things that we can do, and we have to prioritize and we have to focus. And I've stayed focused on what I've called my campaign promises, on making sure public safety is the number one thing we focus on. Then we focus on strengthening our economy, but also restoring trust in City Hall, and finally building a united community. And building a united community has to be individuals who want to get involved and engaged. And so being part of a group like the city council, where again, each council member and myself have one vote, I always encourage people, get to know who is helping lead your communities. And for me, I knew how our council manager form of government functioned. However, a lot of individuals in our community don't know how it works. And so I created something called a palm card for the city of Wichita. And that palm card helps explain that there are 6 council members, there's a mayor, and that our form of government really is a city manager, that's the CEO of the city of Wichita. And so going back to my philosophy, it's really going back to the basics. It's thinking about what is the real role of local government. And again, for me, it's public safety and public works.
Lots of great insights that you're sharing that I think people listening again at different stages of their life can benefit from. Mentors. What have been the role of mentors in your life? You mentioned Rotary and DECA and youth entrepreneurs and other programs in high school, your time learning from your parents and your grandfather, your grandparents, as well as also your time as a reporter and a TV journalist and anchor. Who have been some mentors that have influenced you, and what can you advise us to how we might think about tapping the power of mentors?
I am so grateful that throughout my life, I've had mentors, not just professionally, but also personal mentors. My very first mentor was my school psychologist in middle school. To this day, I still ask her for advice, but she was the individual who showed me educational opportunities. And in every community, there are so many resources, but I believe that it's important for people to know the connection points. And so for me, mentors are connectors. They're the ones that help connect the dots, especially for our young people, that there are resources, there are programs, there are opportunities, but connect them to those very things. And when it comes to mentorship, I think that what I love is that anyone can become a mentor, whether it's a youth pastor, a coach, everyone outside of a home really deserves to have a young person that they are helping guide. And the young person is grateful to have someone outside of their household helping them throughout life. And so I encourage individuals to volunteer their time, become a mentor. We need so many more individuals that are helping families. Parents can only do so much. Coaches can do a lot for that young person. Teachers, counselors, youth pastors can do so much more as well. And so for me, it's being grateful to these mentors, from Mrs. Sorensen to Shanna Zimmerman, my teacher, to Larry Hatteberg, who helped me open up the doors to my first career opportunity in journalism. I'm very grateful to all of them. And so now what I do is give my time to the next generation and mentor other individuals in our community. And really, again, mentorship is really about connections and helping young people connect the dots.
Well, that's a good encouragement to us all to think about how we can help connect the dots for others and help nurture along those that are beginning their life's journey. All right, it's time to wrap this up. This has been delightful, as I knew it would be. First of 2 questions to close us out. Thinking now back on a younger version of yourself. Now, I know you're still very young, Mayor Wu, but thinking back on a younger version of yourself, what would you tell that younger version of yourself now to have done any differently? Maybe think about somebody in their when you were in your late teens or early 20s and you were just maybe graduating from a Wichita East High School or getting ready to go to Wichita State or whatever it might be?
Well, I would tell her to keep focused, keep working hard, and don't apologize for being a nerd. Don't apologize for working hard and not going to the teenager parties, but rather volunteering your time at Exploration Place. These are all things that have helped me become the person I am today. I was very studious and continue to uh, love reading and love learning. And for me, that has helped me in my own story. I know that when um, when I'm around young people, they want to know, how did I become who I am today? And I know that part of my role does help inspire people. I still remember uh, right before I became mayor in December of 2023, I was invited to a school, and the principal told a little girl that the mayor is coming. Well, the little girl said, "When is he arriving?" And the mayor said, "No, it's a she." And the little girl said, "I didn't know women could be mayors." Well, we haven't had a woman in this role as mayor since 1993 when my family immigrated to Wichita. And so I know that this role carries some responsibility and inspiration. And I share these first really to hopefully inspire anyone who is listening. I'm the first woman elected to a full term in the largest city in Kansas. I'm also the first Asian American mayor in the entire state of Kansas's history. These firsts really just mean that I carry this responsibility to keep the door open for all. That includes encouraging little boys to dream big, little girls to know that they belong in places like this because they need to see examples of what they're hoping to be someday. And then they can aspire to be those things or more. And so for me, I would keep telling Lily that she's doing a good job. Keep working hard, keep staying focused, and don't apologize for being that nerd.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, here's the final going out question, and it's somewhat similar, but we have an international audience, and I'd like to think that maybe there's some 8-year-old girls in China, or 8-year-old girls in Guatemala, or 8-year-old girls in the United States, or maybe 8-year-old boys, or maybe they're a little bit older, or maybe people at the midpoint of their life that are looking for the kind of inspiration and encouragement that you've been giving. Just kind of close us out. What would you say to encourage us further to think about going big? How do we identify our gift, our special contribution in a way that we can live lives of meaning and purpose, and that we can help improve the lives of others? You're so well suited to answer that, but Lily Wu, Mayor Lily Wu, answer that for us if you would.
I would say be courageous, also be a contributor, and finally know whom you're serving. And for me, it's Christ. And so I want to make sure that people know that anything can be possible in communities. It requires you to take that responsibility and know that you have those choices every day of being a victor or a victim, that you have the choices of your attitude and your effort. And it does take courage. Doing the right thing takes courage, but always do the right thing. And then be a contributor. You can make a difference by first taking care of you, taking care of those questions that I said earlier, having a good attitude, having good effort. But being a contributor in your community requires us to see that we each have gifts, and those gifts can help communities, neighborhoods. And so I would encourage people to be mindful that doing the right thing takes courage. Being a contributor, everyone has gifts and talents of all abilities, can be a contributor. And then finally, know whom you're serving. And for me, I know whom I serve, and I'm grateful that he's given me this opportunity to help inspire our community and individuals around the world, knowing that when you take personal responsibility of your actions and that you have gifts and talents, to use them for good, and use them to contribute in your community, because that's how we're going to make truly this world a better place, when each person realizes that they are true gifts and have these talents that they can provide to their own neighborhoods.
Wow. Thank you very much. And I'm very grateful that your grandfather sponsored your parents to immigrate from Guatemala to Wichita, Kansas, and encouraged you along, and others did too. And we're really grateful for your life of service. Lily Wu, thank you so much for joining us today on the Going Big podcast.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for tuning in to the Going Big podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling energized and ready to tackle your biggest goals. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps spread the word, and it gets these inspiring stories out to more people. You can also find more content, resources, and updates at our website, goingbigpodcast.com. Remember, the only limits are the ones you don't challenge, the limits that you impose on yourself. Keep pushing, keep growing, and above all, keep going big. See you next time on the Going Big podcast.